Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors Podcast, your trusted source for outdoor information and entertainment. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show and conservation advocate aimed at bringing millennials and Generation Z into the outdoors. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors. The Greenway Outdoors Podcast is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Motor Trend's Truck of the Year for the third year in a row. Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. And by Tracker Boats. Fish the best. Hello and welcome to episode 70 of the Greenway Outdoors Podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Carl.
Carl, our guest in the house today, representative from Ram Trucks. Carl, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for a living.
Sure, thanks. It's Carl Lally. I'm the head of marketing for the Ram 1500. I've worked on the Ram brand for the last 10 or 11 years. Got 20 plus years in the automotive industry, and essentially I'm responsible for the Ram 1500. How many we sell, how we package the truck, how we price it, how we market it to our consumers, and everything about it.
When you say it like that, you make it sound like it's pretty simple. But just knowing from working with you guys and the intricacies of just the outdoor industry specific, I cannot imagine the amount of layers that goes into that job.
It's a pretty complicated product sometimes when you think about it, but it's pretty neat to work with all the different pieces, from advertising and how we market the truck to consumers, to the building of the truck, working with our supply chain and engineering and design folks and making sure that the truck is right from the start.
What Ram did you drive in here today?
I drove a limited Longhorn.
Oh, that all?
Yeah.
You went cheap today, huh?
Yeah. The 10th anniversary edition. It was
no big deal.
Yeah.
Is that the one we had in Texas?
We did have that in Texas.
Nice.
Yeah. What color?
It's white.
Ours was in Texas as well.
Yeah.
That's in that's the Texas Feast episode that's going to be on our Hunt Cast on Carbon TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, that is a nice one. So we're going to kick it off here. Carl, jump in where you'd like, but we're going to cover a couple stories for our listeners that we've been aching to get out. The first one has to do with what we talked about last week. We broke down archery with our bows, and I discussed the idea of what happened when you shot over a deer, or what most likely happened if you shot over a deer when in an elevated tree stand, and the mystical flight of the arrow, if you will, as far as how it works. And in doing that, it's funny because AJ picked up his PSE Brute, and when we went to sight that bow in, I was met with new challenges and another stump, if you will, something that stumped us of like why this was happening and why this was working this way.
I'm still confused on it. I still can't figure it out.
I promise I have the answer, but I have the answer because of a dear friend. So we went out in the back, and when we're looking at AJ's bow, he has 5 pins on his sight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, Carl, I don't know if you shoot any bow or not, but if you did, you would know that the top pin is normally your shortest distance, because when you think about it, you'd be aiming your bow down the most for that pin to be on the target. And then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5 from there. A lot of people would sight in their bows 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. In this case, we were sighting in AJ's bow, and we started at the 10-yard mark. And when we did that, we started with the first pin, and AJ shot, and when he did, we missed the target completely low. And it's like, you're going to burn some arrows when you're first starting out, when you're first starting.
Definitely.
So we're like, okay. We started adjusting things and moving things, and I've got the sight moved as far as I possibly can to get as much elevation out of the shot as possible, meaning I moved it as down as possible. So, because then you have to lift it up more in order to get the shot. Even so, at 10 yards, AJ's pin that he needed to shoot the target was his third pin, which should be the 30-yard pin or the 40-yard pin, depending on what it is. And I'm like, man, we might have to go through and tweak all these different things.
There's a lot of tweaking involved.
So in shooting, you were getting pretty comfortable, and AJ started to be able to hit the target very, very well, hit the bullseye consistently with that third pin from there. I go, if you want to try 20 yards, we can back up and try 20 yards. So I said, start with like the same pin to try, and we'll see where it hits on the target and go from there. So he moves back, and he shoots his first arrow, and it goes over the target. And I'm like,
It took over.
okay, would you get nervous? Like, well,
It was you.
yeah, it was. I was pretty sure it was you. So then he does it again, same result. We're like $30 in now. So I'm like, all right, give me the bow. Let me try. So I try, same result. And I'm like, if the first pin was so low at 10, there's no way it could be good at 20 because it was low. So then I tried his first pin. So keep in mind, at 10 yards, his third pin, which should be the 30 or 40-yard pin, is hitting bullseye. We've now moved back. We are 20 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
I use the first pin, which should be the 10-yard pin, it was so low at 10 yards. I shoot, bullseye.
That's backwards.
That's what I said. I said, I don't understand this physics. So I text Ted Nugent, and I said, hey, sorry to bother you. Okay, it's like 10 o'clock at night, but we're out here confused. He calls me 10 minutes later, and he goes, the mystical flight of the arrow, my son. And I was like, Uncle Ted, I have no idea what's going on here. And he goes, I'm not surprised, and I'll explain to you why. He said that with the new bows, the sights sit up so high. So imagine a scope on a gun, right? And when a scope is on a gun, the barrel is down here and the scope's above it. And we always have this feeling that wherever you put the crosshairs is exactly where the barrel's aimed, and the scope and the barrel are one, but they're not because it's sitting above it.
Right.
So what's actually happening is the barrel is aimed slightly upwards and the scope is aimed slightly downwards so that at a specific distance, they meet.
Right.
Well, he goes, look at the sight on AJ's bow, and I bet you it's sitting really high. And I look at it, and based on the way it was put together and where it was sitting very, very high. I'm like, yeah. He's like, a lot of the new compound bows do. So at 10 yards, they're so fast that you weren't giving the arrow the opportunity, because an arrow doesn't fly in a straight line. It goes up first and then comes down. At the 10-yard mark, you weren't giving the arrow enough time to catch up to where the sight was, which is why your third pin was good at the 10-yard mark, but then at the 20-yard mark, your first pin became relevant again.
It equaled.
Because the arrow was doing its arc. So I found that very interesting. Also, how sweet is Ted Nugent to call us at 10:30 at night to help us walk through that?
It's like calling customer service.
Yeah, it's like we don't understand this bow. Please help us.
It was put on wrong, and that's what it was.
He's very helpful. So, if you are trying to sight in your bow, and and unfortunate too, we see in a lot of archery shops and a lot of these different specialty shops, whether they get overwhelmed, whatever it might be, the customer service might not, the attention to detail hasn't always been there.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The consistency on that is just mind blowing. It's not just one. It's all of them.
I actually
nobody knows more about bows, and you're stupid.
Yep. And I will tell you this: what I've also noticed is, you would think like in the chain stores it would be worse, right? Because it's like how it is. I've had the best luck with Bass Pro and Cabela's locations as far as like getting someone eager to help you with that.
Right.
But
I mean, obviously, those companies are doing something right.
they're doing okay.
You mean respect?
Yeah, exactly.
And kindness to customers?
Exactly.
Must be new.
So, the first pin, if you are sighting in your bow, you start with the first pin at your 10-yard pin. You attempt to put it there. But if you can't and you're take a step back, test 20 yards, make sure you're on the paper, but test 10 and 20 to kind of figure out that equation that you might actually find that your 30-yard pin or your middle pin or even lower might be your 10-yard pin, and then you'll have to start the equation again as you move back. So that is hopefully another tip, just to understand that you might have that. You might have that arc happen, and it might happen a little slower than you think, and at 10 yards it might be different. And then also with the lesson we taught last week, and if you're looking for it, it's in our podcast clips or podcast episode 69. You'll find it where we discuss why you might be shooting over a deer when in an elevated stand and understanding how elevation and gravity impacts the arrow differently. So something I wanted to touch on because I felt like it was pretty important, because those seem to be the two biggest issues that,
and we're still figuring it out,
that new archers have. It's like, it's so confusing because you have like this concept when you're going out and shooting your bow. You're like, I aim and it goes, but it's just, they're so fast now. I mean, they're going 350 feet per second. On top of that, there's different size arrows, there's different sights, there's different fluctuations. So it's all.
And you don't know what you don't know, but the deeper we get into it, the physics of it all and the combinations that you can have with your setup is just it's fascinating how deep into it you can get.
I know. Well, hopefully this helps.
Most new archers don't have the ability to text Uncle Ted either.
I was going to say that. Not many
That's
people can
fair.
have a person to look up to like
That's
that.
fair.
I guess that's where well, hopefully that lesson will now be given to everyone else.
Spreading it.
Yes. Another story I wanted to cover. There's a new world record for paddlefish. Okay. And we just
paddlefish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's ours. No, we just got back from Oklahoma recently, and we did a paddlefish trip where we went fishing for paddlefish, and it's an interesting species on so many levels. So we were near Miami, Oklahoma, and while we were there, yeah, I said it right too. They don't.
You did.
Right now, Chief Billy of the Wyandotte Nation there is a good friend of ours. You know, he's like, I'm proud of you, Kyle. You finally got it right. But the Wyandotte town that's there, the river that goes through the town there, we would actually catch paddlefish when we would go there. We'd stay with Chief Billy. They've got a casino there in Wyandotte. We'd hit the river and we'd go snagging for paddlefish, which basically any other type of thing that you could do, snagging would be massively illegal. So basically you're running giant treble hooks with dipsy divers, which makes the treble hooks go to the bottom, and you're attempting to drive over these giant fish, snags them, and then you reel them in.
And barbless.
Do you know what a paddlefish is? It's
got a really long.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Just making sure. A lot of people aren't quite
They're
sure
crazy
what they are.
looking fish.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, some people call them spoonbills.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but the big old paddle on their face, and on the paddle is sensors that they can sense microorganisms, zooplankton in the water. And that's what they eat. So because they're filter feeders, you can't catch them like on bait. No matter how much you try, you're not going to get enough zooplankton on a hook. So you're not going to be able to catch them. So snagging is the season. And there in Miami, they have a paddlefish conservation organization there. So what happens is when you go out and catch your paddlefish, I think you're allowed 1 or 2 a year.
I think it's 1.
It could be 1. I know it's 1 or 2 a year, and then a lot of the season is closed to keeping. It's just catch and release only. So you have to use barbless hooks so you don't injure the fish too much, so that they'll be okay when you let them go. And when you catch the fish, you take it to the paddlefish research place. They'll do all kind of tests on it to see how old it is, you know, how long it's been there, what year it was hatched, and then the females, they'll take the caviar out, and then they'll package it and sell it, and it's worth a lot of money, and that's what funds the conservation of the species itself. So everybody checks in their stuff.
It's actually really interesting. You'll bring them to these research facilities, and you'll send the fish in through one door, and it comes out another door on the end of the building, and when it comes out, it's vacuum sealed packaged meat. They do the whole processing
It's
for
like
you.
Pretty quick too.
It's
we
like
were there
5
the whole
minutes.
time.
Yeah,
It's kind of a great setup.
It's fantastic, actually.
And the best thing about it is the hands-on conservation that's there. So by using the eggs to fund it, they're not taking any money from anyone. The fishermen bring them there to have them cleaned because they don't have any bones. They just have one line of cartilage through the back, and cleaning them is a bit confusing for people if they've never done it before. You don't want to waste any meat. The meat itself is very, I don't know, would you say like a fibrous fat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, if you got a better description, I'd love to hear it. If you mixed gelatin and meat and then made something that tastes better than it sounds.
yeah, it sounds brutal, but it's a very soft, like mushy type meat.
If you were like cutting it, you'd have trouble getting a hold of it. Like
Yeah.
you could squeeze it and probably run it through your fingers if you weren't careful.
But it's good.
Yeah,
But it's good.
Yeah, it is. Depending on the one you get. I mean, if you got this new world record, you might not love it, but it's a really interesting fish. I'm sure you're seeing footage of it right now on the screen, but they're absolutely beautiful, and they taste pretty good. But it's just getting one is so weird because when you snag a fish, imagine if someone grabbed you by your lip and then someone grabbed you by your arm, you'd be able to do a lot more if someone grabbed your arm than if they grabbed your lip. It's the same thing when fighting a fish. So I can only imagine what it would have been like. So it was in Keystone Lake, Oklahoma. The fish was 164 pounds.
That's incredible.
That's insane.
That's a massive, massive fish.
We've seen the beginning of that cycle when they're tiny.
Yeah.
You know, this big.
Yeah, we held them in our hands like this at the research facility. Really cool.
And to have them be 160 pounds, that's
a good long life.
Yeah.
no doubt.
It's probably longer than I'll live.
Wow.
Yeah. It's they're pushing.
Are there lifetimes like sturgeon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have real long lifespans, so they do really well.
That is
Yeah,
so
I
interesting.
mean, especially with the way we eat, who knows if I'll make it that long? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I have a question. So when we were down there, I don't recall this ever being talked about, but the season is a thing. But are they Are they a migratorial?
No. Well,
Are they always there?
sort of. So like you saw the one I caught, his bill was all jacked up because he tried to swim through the dam. So it was like split like this at the end.
Oh, that's right.
I ended up letting that one go because it was on the catch and release day too.
Yeah.
So he's still out there chilling somewhere.
Hopefully.
I wonder if he can read everything the same, or maybe he gets better. Like instead of just being zooplankton to the left and right, now he's got a top and bottom thing going for him. He's got
made him better.
Yeah, different angles. But yeah, they live in that river system. They pretty much they follow the from what I've learned is they follow the water temperature and they follow the depth of the water. So as the rainy season and different times flooding happens, they'll run up the river to something that would be super shallow to breed, and then they'll run back down to the lakes and stuff like that if once the water starts to recede out and the temperatures change. But as far as like a full-on migratory fish, I mean, I guess that's like a mini migration.
Yeah.
But not full-on migration. But I know in some lakes too, they have them just straight up in the lake. So obviously they couldn't do it there.
Right.
But pretty interesting fish. So the world record, 164 pounds. Now this is sort of interesting. The guy's name is Grant Rader, I think, Rader.
Yeah.
Probably Rader.
Yeah, like Nader.
Yeah. When they used to say, like, don't be a hater, vote for Nader.
Oh, yeah.
Grant Rader. So he was actually born with muscular dystrophy. So this was kind of like a really cool experience for him. He was out with a fishing guide. Now, the guy that actually had the world record before him was his fishing guide.
Oh, wow.
So he broke the guide's record with this fish.
That's
Wow.
cool. I like
Guy's
that.
seen the two largest
Yeah.
paddlefish.
It's 1 and 2.
That is crazy.
Even weirder, the paddlefish that won the world record, it must have been tagged or something, but they didn't specify. The guide caught that same fish in January or February, and they just caught they caught it again, and it's gained so much weight since then that now it's the world record fish.
Oh, it's the same fish.
Now, it's not the one that had the world record
No.
before, but it's the same fish that he caught
Earlier in the year.
Yeah,
Interesting.
six months ago. So it kind of makes you wonder, was it because, was it tagged, or did it have something unique like that paddle? Like I'd be like, that's Billy Bob again.
I bet it was a scar of some sort.
Yeah, something where
You
he's
would
like,
know.
Yeah, he's like, that's the one. And
Interesting.
yeah. So new world record, and it's cool for that guy because, just you got dealt a tough hand, and this is kind of a cool thing. So he's kind of a
He gets his
mini
name.
celebrity in Oklahoma right now.
He gets his. Well, I mean, we're talking about it in Michigan now.
I wonder if
So-
you get the record, you have to have some like world record representative come out and
Oh, you got to have
certify
official weight, official scale. Yeah, it's got to all be done. It's not too different. We caught we went noodling. I don't know if you've seen that episode yet.
I have actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that one Jeffrey caught, she was all of 100 pounds, but we don't know for sure because we dropped the scale in the water on my fish that was like 50, and we thought that was the biggest thing that ever walked.
Yeah.
And then this thing was twice the size, but because we didn't have the scale in the water, we didn't know. So in order to get her officially weighed, we'd have to keep her, but she was full of eggs, and that didn't feel like the right thing to do. So we let her go, and it kind of made it like AJ said in the episode too. He's like, it's kind of like folklore now, where it's like she's out there saying, the world, that state record may be that, but you know what? I know there's a bigger one out there.
It's just another fish story.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
thankfully, we had it filmed, so.
Yeah.
it lives on that way. So.
Yeah. When you see that thing though, like when Jeff's holding it in the sizzle reel, you use the clip for that, and he's holding it like this, and he zoom out, and it's just this. It looks fake.
It does.
It's like, how is that a real thing? You know?
Props to our prop manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks fake. The detail in the paint job is so good though.
You got to be in pretty good shape to pull that off too, right? I mean, kind of the time you spend under the water.
And
then
he's
the
not. It was a
haul of
wild
that
guy.
huge fish. I mean, that thing's.
We were all.
huge.
That was the last one of the day
It's no
too.
joke. The guide we were with was talking about people getting their fingers broken and wrists snapped from these, because they'll do the alligator roll. They'll clamp down your hand and do that alligator roll. It's no joke, especially with a fish that's almost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
You got to be ready.
Yeah.
I can't explain to you like the anticipation. Like the water is all muddy. so you can't see a thing, and like you feel a hole, and you know what you don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know whether I'm smart enough to not stick my hand in a beaver hole or not.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if I'm
true.
smart enough to know what an alligator tortoise looks like, or I don't know what I don't know what's in there, but it's probably a fish. But then if it is a fish, it's gonna bite me, and I don't know how big it is. So like you psych yourself up, and then your friends are making fun of you. So you're like working yourself up, and you're like, okay, and then you dive down, and you reach it, and you're like, everything in your body's like, you don't reach your hand into holes that you don't know what's in there, where you probably will get bit and you can't see. And you're like, here I go.
And you're underwater.
Holding your breath. Yeah.
But if you come up without getting bit, you're gonna get made fun of. So it's like, what do you? You're
gonna get made fun of.
Really
It's a
tough
high-pressure situation.
Yeah. So it was exciting. Is that something you'd be into?
I would take a lot of, peer pressure.
Razzing. Yeah.
There it is.
The peer pressure
That's the
helps.
key to it.
You got to have your good buddies there so they know how to exactly turn your
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, they
push
know.
your buttons and
Exactly.
get you going down there.
So you guys have done such a good job with making RAM good for outdoorsmen and women through different features and stuff like that. So with that, I know you don't have a ton of hunting and fishing experience, but what is it that you like to do in the outdoors?
Our family, we like to go camping. So we do a lot of camping, which kind of opens the doors to a lot of what I call ad hoc trips, right? I mean, you can go for a hike or you can go fishing.
Yeah.
Especially here in Michigan, there's just a ton of places that you can drop a line and a lot of great state parks and things of that nature. So primarily that's kind of what our family leans towards.
Nice. Now you've got 4 daughters.
I do.
Okay, so you're explaining to me that you're taking 5 women camping, and so you're packing them all in. Do you guys have a camper? Do you do the tents, or what do you do?
Yeah, we broke down a few years ago, got the camper. And,
Okay.
That makes it a lot easier.
It does.
acknowledgement to having the girls and making life a little bit easier.
Sure. Where do you like to go in Michigan?
So we love the west side of the state.
Okay.
You can get close to Lake Michigan there and enjoy all the beaches. And then we also go up north as well, up in the Petoskey, Charlevoix area.
Nice.
Just kind of between the west side and up north. Those are our 2 hot spots.
Are you familiar with like Cadillac area?
A little bit.
Okay, so just north of Cadillac is where our hunting camp is.
Oh, right.
So
yeah.
we've got about 500 acres up there that we do a lot of hunting and fishing and stuff like that. We actually have the youth hunt coming up. So if you or your daughters, if you want to get one of your daughters out to do a youth hunt or something like that, you guys are welcome to come up. It's, I
If
think,
they're into that sort of thing.
yeah, if they'd be interested. I know it seems like though that the female demographic in hunting is the fastest growing demographic in the outdoor
Which is
industry.
really interesting.
Yeah. Your sister, I mean, look at your sister.
That's true.
You
She
know?
started from young, but she also grew up in it. Like,
Sure.
that's just a thing our family did. So it's easier for her. If you're not necessarily growing up in it every season, I can see how it'd be tough for a girl to pull that
Yeah,
trigger.
just- yeah.
So
I think a lot of young dads these days, they'll look at their son and their daughter kind of on equal footing and say, hey, this is my passion, so I want you to have a chance to experience it. And
Definitely.
I just
Right.
think that's more natural now than maybe it was in previous generations.
Definitely.
that's a good point.
That's how my dad was. I remember, like when we would have shooting competitions and stuff in the backyard. Laurel tended to beat me. She was 3 years older, but she tended to beat me with the rifle shooting.
Really?
But from the early age, I smoked my dad. Anyone who wanted it was getting it with archery. That was like my thing.
Huh.
So I just was always better with it, which is weird because I really am more of a shotgun hunter in general. But it's just
Right.
kind of how it worked out.
Do you spend any time up in the UP?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
It's a long drive, especially with a camper.
Yeah.
You're like just as close to West Virginia as you are the UP from where
Yeah.
we're sitting.
It's so wild to think that's still part of Michigan.
Right.
It shows how big this state is and how much opportunity there is. So.
Yeah. Property values are interesting. If you want to buy like 400 acres for 40 grand, you can.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's beautiful up there. If there was more opportunity there, I would love to live there, minus the snow.
It's unspoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
definitely.
Still is.
Perfect word
Untouched.
for it.
Yeah.
So getting more into why we're here, and that's to discuss why Ram Trucks is the Ram 1500 is the best truck for the outdoorsman, period. So talking about that, I want to talk about the history of Ram from a product standpoint and the development of it and what got us to be here in 2021.
So that can be a long story if you give me enough time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm admittedly a Ram nerd. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I live and breathe day in and day out. But we sometimes joke that we're like a 10-year-old startup company with a 100-year history.
I like that.
If you go back, Dodge had the first screen side pickup truck back in 1914. So there's like this 100-year-old history of us. But it was really a little over 10 years ago, 2009, that we branched Ram off from Dodge and created a standalone brand. And if you think back, that was in the midst of the recession, and there was all sorts of things going on. And
they were doing bailouts.
I didn't know it was 2009.
2009 is when we made our Declaration of Independence, so to speak.
Nice.
So October of 2009 is kind of our birthday.
I actually do know that. And the reason why I know it is because that's when I bought my first new Ram.
Oh, nice.
So that was when I had just gotten out of high school, and I bought my first new Ram myself. And when I did it, I went to go file for the insurance.
Oh, yeah.
And I went on, like the thing where you do it online, I'm like looking up different insurances, and I'm like, no one has the Ram on here, because I was looking under Dodge, and I didn't realize you had to do it completely separate. And that was how that's how I found out about it back in 2009, before all this.
It's been a little bit of a process, but so we caught a lot of flack for it at the time. I mean, a lot of other auto companies were shedding brands. They were getting rid of brands. And here we were sort of creating new brands in a sense. But I think now that you have a little bit of perspective of time, you look back over the last 10, 12 years and realize that Ram has really flourished because we've just been laser focused on the truck customer. Dodge has had its opportunity to go create this performance brand that's all about American muscle, and they're two totally distinctive identities. So it's been kind of a neat thing to watch play out.
You can see why it would make sense. Like, what you focus on is what you're good at, and to have all the focus on one thing, it's a good idea.
It's hard to be everything to everybody, and we don't really want to be everything to everybody, meaning we don't want one brand that sells sport utilities and pickups and sports cars and family sedans. And to us, it just made more sense to give us all the focus on truck, and we're going to make an awesome truck, and that's what we've set out to do.
That's a good point.
Right. And this is kind of tooting our own horn here, but the fact that we've run the Truck of the Year 3 years in a row, Motor Trend, is really, that's never happened. So, a lot of times what you'd see as a trend, if you're looking at the last 20 years, when people would win the award, they'd win it because they just came out with a new one. Mm-hmm. So then because they came out with a new one, then the next year, next new one would come out, so then they would win it. But now we're like around our done with our third year here of winning it 3 times in a row. It kind of tells you that we've kind of set ourselves apart, especially with this lineup.
There's so much work that goes into bringing these trucks to market, just the research and understanding the customer and sorting through the features that are most important, that when you get the kind of validation from Motor Trend or any of these other publications, it's just hugely rewarding. So to win it once is a big victory. Back in 2013 and 14, we won it back-to-back, and that was the first time any company had ever won it back-to-back. It was when we first introduced the Eco Diesel, so that was like brand new news. Like, people hadn't seen that kind of powertrain in a light-duty truck in really ever. So we're really proud of that, and then to win it 3 years in a row over the last 3 years was just, I think, in our wildest dreams. It was really cool.
So for hunters and fishermen that are listening, what features and what ideas would you have that you would want to express to them of, like, why did you have outdoors men and women in mind when you designed this line?
They're people who drive our trucks. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the obvious answer, I guess. You look at the people that drive your trucks and you try to understand what can you do for them that makes life better. And so that's really the innovative thought that led to things like the Ram Box. So we have these integrated bedside boxes that you can store firearms and fishing rods, and they're lockable, they're drainable. You can put, ice or whatever in there. You can hose them out at the end of the day. That kind of feature content is really by looking at how people use their trucks and then just responding and saying, we can build something that actually does that for you.
Right.
That's better.
When I look at it, some of the features that are really important to me, and we're making a really cool video. Ryan's actually producing it right now on our quick 8 favorite features on the Ram. But some of the things that have always stuck out to me is that step that you put on the back to get into the back tailgate. Mm-hmm. There's a step that you can just step on, and it kind of slides out, and it makes it so easy to get in the tailgate. And I cannot tell you how many times that has benefited me getting in and out of the truck, grabbing things, just hopping up in there instead of having to hop up, sit down, get dirty, crawl in. But I would say low-key, like, one of the coolest features in the entire period in the entire truck is the lighted tailgate area. Because if you're a duck hunter or you're a hunter in the morning or you're trying to get your bow out or whatever it is, you've got the tonneau cover on. Mm-hmm. So it's pitch black in there, And anytime you would open up, you're like looking with a flashlight and stuff like that. And the other trucks, you open it up and the lights click on. So now I can see everywhere inside the entire truck, in the tailgate area. And to me, that was like one of the coolest features of the whole deal.
One of my favorite features that you would use more often than you would think for bringing meat to different places is within the cab. You have the coolers in the back of the cab, down on the floor.
The in-floor storage.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. I've had goose meat in there, duck meat. Just put some ice in there, and you can take it out.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
I think it was really smart that you guys for that. So if you go in the back area, what Ryan's saying is like you lift up the floor mat in the back seat, and underneath it is like this plastic box. You open it up, and inside there is like a rubbery plastic insert, and it goes down pretty deep, and you can put all kinds of ice and meat and different things in there for traveling back after hunting. I use it for brook trout all the time because I'll take the trout, I'll clean them in the river, and then I'll always take a Ziploc bag with me, and then I'll always have the ice in there, and I just pop them in there, and then to get them back to where I'm going, it's perfect.
Just don't forget it.
Don't forget. Yeah.
Don't want to leave fish in the truck.
No.
But if you did, the nice thing is you could take out that out the insert, clean it, and then put it back in, because like you can imagine like that. Those are the things that nobody thinks about. But if you didn't make it so you could remove that, imagine trying to clean it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now you can just hose it out and you're good to go. So that was one of my favorites. But then another need, and I don't have it on this one. I have the normal ones, but on the next truck I have to get are the power assist steps, because
oh my gosh,
they're next level. A, they look so cool, but B, you want the assist steps because, if you've got a girlfriend and she's got to get into the truck and she's got a skirt on or whatever it might be, or getting into the truck is easier because you want assist steps in general. But the problem is you can rip those suckers off when you're out off-roading and different things like that, on going over the trails. So if you have the power assist steps where they go away, that made a world of difference to us.
Yeah, they tuck in underneath the truck so nicely, and then if you have it, even with our air suspension, then you can raise the truck, up to another inch to get that additional ground clearance. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Everything.
I got the ground clearance, but then I have the step when I need to get in and out of the truck.
Plus, it's hard not to feel cool when you press that button, you're rising up. I know.
Yeah.
We didn't actually know about that feature when we had it the first time, because when we travel to different locations, we normally work with the dealership there, and we have like strategic relationships with dealerships all over the country, so that when we go there, we can use one of their high-end trucks, because we can't ship our truck everywhere we go.
Sure.
And the first time we had that, I'm like, this is sick. I cannot believe how awesome this is.
It's a good party trick, too, when you have it in the off-road position. Then you hit the key fob, and it'll lower all the way down.
There, you can see like all the dads with beers standing around the truck like, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Trust isn't built in a day. It's built over time. The early hours and the late nights. It's built by doing the work and pushing the limits every day. Because the promises we make are the promises we were built to keep.
If you'd like to help support the Greenway Outdoors, please like and comment on this podcast and subscribe to all of our channels.
So what goes into, say there's a feature that you want to bring to the Ram truck, and you think, man, this is a great idea. How would that process look for integrating it into reality?
So sometimes features are born from those of us that just work on the brand and drive trucks day in and day out. But we also have folks that are constantly looking at features and innovations and kind of the next wave of what's maybe possible. And they'll bring ideas to us. So we're constantly reviewing different thoughts and ideas. And from there, it's really just a matter of evaluating, okay, what's the feasibility of it? What's the investment associated with it? Will customers like it, and will they buy it? And we kind of bring it all together to then say, yeah, let's go ahead and make the investment and put it into the truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is. And the things you guys have thought of, another thing that I've done is in the Ram box in the back, I'll keep all like the spices and stuff like that. I can take my portable Traeger grill, I can plug it directly into the truck, put it on the tailgate, plug it into the truck, and run the Traeger grill so you can catch fish right by the river and then cook it on the back of the grill. So you're not hauling out propane, you're not doing all these different things. The truck's capable of running that.
Yep.
Just because it's got the 115 volt outlet just inside it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just little. Sometimes it's nothing more than just paying extra attention to what your customers are doing. It sounds super cliche and kind of, corporate-y, but it's a fact. And when we take pride on doing that.
Yeah. I would say, too, I know this is your favorite, the reclining back seat. Because there's so much leg room in the back, but with the recline on there, for him or AJ or whoever's in the back seat, that's a huge benefit to be able to just lay back and...
We talk about it. I think they coined the term in one of our ads, actually, back seats that do front seat things.
Yeah.
Because they
nice.
recline, they heat, they're ventilated. You've got power outlets back there. I mean, it's like there's no penalty for sitting in the back seat. In fact, some might say it's actually an advantage.
I kind of like it better now. Yeah, now that I've got back there, I'm like, I don't ever want to hear complaints again. This is awesome. This is really cool.
One big, I've been do a lot of camping trips, hunting trips on my own and all that stuff, and occasionally I don't bring a tent because I have the truck. You guys took away the hump in the middle on the floor. It makes the best bed. I'm just tall enough that I can lay flat in it, and I don't have to like crunch up back there. And without that hump, I don't need to bring a tent.
It does. It makes a huge difference. Plus, we also have tie-down hooks in there so that if it's not human cargo but actual cargo, you can tie it down and secure it. People love it for their dogs. Their dog can go up into the truck and they got a nice even space to kind of hang out back there and lay down and be comfortable, or
help them from doing
put them in a cage, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that with the tie downs, but that would be super great for putting a crate back there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A kid. Not a kid. Dog flying back and forth, going down the 2 tracks.
What about obviously like COVID's like a hot topic for people right now. I happen to know, but I wanted you to talk about a little bit about how did you guys deal with, like you see on the news, everyone's talking about, there's not enough chips, or there's not enough this, or there's not enough that, or everyone's getting laid off, or will they be able to bring people in? Oh, how is this working? I've been really impressed with how Ram as a company has taken care of its employees and its people and still continuing to get trucks out there. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about it a little bit so people knew what was going on.
I appreciate that. We pride ourselves on what we call early issue identification. So we're going to figure out what the issue is that's coming at us before it's actually here. Whether that's working with suppliers to understand microchip supplies, which was something that a year ago nobody could even really talk about or understand, and it's been our reality. Or any other component for that matter. So we try to identify the issues early, and then that allows us to figure out a solution early and implement it. And we try to be very nimble. I think even though we're a large company, I believe our teams are very good at responding to the needs of the day, and that's been a competitive advantage for us. And frankly, the built to serve logo or tagline that we use in our ads, we've embraced that. We talk about it at work. We have employees that we identify as, when they go above and beyond, hey, you're built to serve. You figured it out today, and so we have some fun with that. And then people just end up embracing that, and it becomes a cultural thing.
Well, it shows through with the quality and the fact that, like, the employees that I've gotten to interact with from you guys, everybody's still there, everybody's still happy, everybody's still grateful, and you guys have come out the other side. And how are you seeing inventories kind of bounce back now, as far as what should people expect when they go to a Ram lot now?
They're going to see Ram trucks on dealer lots. They're not going to see maybe as many as they would have seen in the past, 2 years ago or something like that, but they're still going to find trucks there. We've got a very good order system now where we're taking orders for customers directly, and we prioritize the sold orders so we can get them turned around as quickly as possible. But they're still going to see a selection of trucks, and they're still going to be able to order what they want. The quality thing, you mentioned that, and I wouldn't be doing my job, I guess, if I didn't point out the fact that, one of the awards, we talked about winning the Motor Trend Awards over the last 3 years. We just won the top quality award from J.D. Power in their initial quality study. The top brand of any automotive brand in the industry. Oh. Ram is at the top of the heap. So really cool. We were 3rd place last year. We bumped up to 1st place this year.
That's huge.
And it's another one of those validating moments. Like we've sort of felt it, seen it, knew all the data internally, and now we get to see customers enjoying that. So it's really cool.
That is awesome. Yeah, when you're in one, it's you almost feel like you're in a luxury vehicle, but yet it's got all the outdoor. You're like taking it duck hunting though. You know what I mean?
Even some of the basic models, like It's nice. It's a nice vehicle. It's impressive what you guys have done as far as like it's aesthetically pleasing, and every year you see some switch ups that makes life a little bit easier, and it's just enjoyable to be in, especially for us who travel a lot. Being comfortable, is nice.
No kidding.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Whenever I read those types of comments or hear them personally, I'm always sort of patting our designers on the back and saying, keep up the good work. You guys are doing awesome work. And I think it's just it's a reflection of allowing them to go do what they do best and try not to get in the way of our engineers in terms of what they can execute and not harnessing or holding their talent back. And so they've got a great design. We're gonna go spend a couple extra bucks to develop it that way and just make sure that it's perfect for the customer.
Right.
That's interesting, especially from the artistic perspective, which is what AJ and I do. You feel much better when someone's giving you that creative freedom.
Yeah.
You feel much more motivated when someone's letting you use your outlet to the fullest. And
Yeah, I mean, we kind of get to do what we want, and then the approval is usually always there.
Yeah.
Go do what God blessed you to be good at.
Yeah.
So
that's
and
awesome.
Let them
that you
go
guys
do it, and it turns out well.
Yeah, it does.
We're not getting like to-do sheets or anything like that, which is nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys would kill me. If I was to summarize how I feel about RAM, and this is coming from a perspective of working with you guys for almost 4 years now. So you guys have been with us since the beginning, and people out there know that we've worked with RAM. So when they see our show, normally they associate it with RAM. People make jokes to me about it all the time, or when people buy trucks, they send me emails and they say, hey, we got this truck because, you guys are working together and this and that. Hey, we wanted to show our support. And since we've been here, we have 107 of those, of like direct sales because we are working together. And when that happens, and I think about that, I think the core of it is kind of what you touched on in the beginning of our conversation is the meeting Michelle Struby, meeting you, meeting the team. The idea that I get is, like you said, it's almost like you guys treat it like a startup. So this TV show, this podcast, this Huntcast, the outdoor education series, the entire company of the Green Bay Outdoors, you're in our studio now. You see how we treat all of our people like home. It's like being at home, those sorts of things. It's a startup with a bunch of young guys that wanted to chase a goal. And I have that feeling at RAM. And it's weird because when people think of RAM, they probably think of this giant corporation. And to me, it's like these 5 or 6 people that I've gotten to meet. But like you said, it's like the creative people are doing the creative things, but like you guys actually care. Like it's weird to think that a company of your caliber, that the employees aren't just a cog in a wheel just going. Like they actually give a crap about what happens to the company, what product they're putting out there. When you guys get an award, it's not like, oh, I'm going to get a bonus. It's like, oh, my creative goals have come to fruition into a solid product for a customer, and now people are really excited about it, and that makes me feel good because I care about the product. All the people that I'm working with have been there for a very long time, and it's because they've cared for a very long time. And that like comes across. It's like when we're coming up with ideas on how to tie you guys into conservation and tie you guys into different things, there's like an overwhelming feeling from your team of like taking this startup company approach to like what you're working on. And I don't think a normal customer that sees a commercial and goes and buys a truck would necessarily know that. And I think that's why I'm so passionate. Where like, if I see a family member or someone I know driving a Chevy or something, they're going to hear about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Because of who I've gotten to know at your company. So that's something that's been pretty important to me.
I really appreciate, hearing you say that.
I mean it.
Because when we go to have a partnership with, whether it's an individual or whether it's a group or a company or another brand, we take it very seriously. We don't just throw money at things and say, well, they're going to get us more eyeballs on our truck. I mean, that's not in character with who we're trying to be as a brand. And so we look for other individuals or groups that are passionate about what they do. And obviously in the outdoor space, there's a great overlap with truck consumers. At the end of the day, what we're trying to model our brand after is really our consumer. That's where the whole Built to Serve tagline came from. That's who our truck customer is, many of which happen to be outdoors people. But they don't do things for recognition and for pats on the back. They're not motivated for being famous, if you will. They do it because it's the right thing to do. And so we try to create a brand culture I mean, at the end of the day, we build pickup trucks, but we try to create a brand culture around that, and then we look for other partners that can reflect those types of values, and we think it just works great when you find that match.
Right. And it's like a weird world too, because you really got to get to know people to establish that. And I've been lucky enough to know you guys and kind of get that experience. I will say too, in looking at the product, something I wanted to say, a note that I want to make. When shows and different companies are sponsored by something, like the perception is often like, oh, they're just saying they like that today, but yesterday they were doing this, or they just, because there's money involved. And you could probably look it up somehow, but I graduated from high school in 2007. 2009, I bought my first new truck. It was a Ram. 3 years later, another one. So I'm on my fifth one now, and that's what I've always driven. So it's been kind of organic and cool for me to be able to establish that relationship with the company that I've been so loyal to for so long. You know what I mean? So I think that matters, because it's like you see these kill shot shows and stuff sometimes where they're like, today we use this gun and it is the best gun. Tomorrow we use this gun and it is the best gun. To kind of have that organic, I wouldn't be able to do it with another brand. So I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
Chatting with us, hanging out with us. What'd you think of the coconut water thing?
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I like it.
I am addicted to these. We need to reach out to this company
I'm going
because
to start buying it.
I'm obsessed. They might be a little more expensive than they should be, but they're you get one of those on the beach with some ice, you're feeling good.
You're in good shape. That's a good day.
I like it a whole bunch. Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Green Outdoors podcast. As always, we have a lot of people that listen to our podcast and may not realize we have an actual TV show. It's on Sportsman Channel. Check it out on Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you'll see us driving a sweet Ram truck in our different episodes. Hunting, fishing, you name it, we do it. Check out our secondary TV show, our Huntcast TV show, which you will find on Carbon TV and YouTube. Check out our Outdoor Education series, which you will find on YouTube, pretty much anywhere we distribute it through our website. Yep. Outdoor Education series, the goal of that is, you got a question about the outdoors, how do I tie a fishing knot? How do I fillet this fish? Go there to find high quality, good videos that will teach you those things. Our children's book is going to be coming out very soon, which we're very excited about. Also, if you've watched recipes of ours in the show and you're looking for them, we get this email all the time. Go to our website, click on the recipes. Jeff finally updated it. It looks really good. Go check them out there. That's where the information is. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. You name it, we're there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay green.